Hi, third graders. Uh, I want to read to you one of my favorite books. It's a totally goofy book, and I feel like we could all use some silliness in our lives right now. So I wanted to share it with you. It's called Matthew and the Midnight Turkeys. This was one of my brother's favorite books when he was little. Um, it's just totally ridiculous. But even though it's a super funny book, there's some thinking that we can do about it. Before we left school, in a lot of our reading groups, we were talking about text to self connections and how when you're reading, you can understand books better by thinking about what the things in the book remind you of from your own lives. And then you can use those connections to help you understand the story better and just to enjoy the story more too. So, as we're reading it, I want you to be thinking of what parts of this story can you connect to? Like, what parts of this story remind you of things from your own life? And I'll do some of those too to show you what I'm talking about. And then afterwards, I'd love for you to post a text to self connection that you made in the so I can understand how the mom's probably a little bit frustrated, but also really loving Matthew at the same time because she's tired, but she also thinks it's kind of awesome how silly he's being. I'm going to read this page and then I'll show you the picture. I'll do it like this. So Matthew's mother had to get out of bed and make breakfast herself. Afterwards, Matthew went out into the yard. A dog was digging a hole in the garden, so he chased it away. Then he got his shovel, 2 buckets, and his best bulldozer so he could finish the job properly. He worked very hard for a long time, and when his mother came out to see what he was up to, she was very surprised to see how much he had done. Matthew, she cried, you've dug a hole in my garden. Yes, I have, said Matthew proudly. Lucky for you, I haven't planted any flowers there yet, said his mother. Now fill up that hole right away. But it's my very best one, said Matthew. Can't I keep it for a while? Oh, all right, said his mother. You can dig there today, but tomorrow that hole has to go, okay? I wonder if any of you could be making a text to self connection right now about a time that you did something you were really proud of, and then your parents were like, oh my gosh, you have to clean up that mess. I wonder if any of you are making those kinds of connections and thinking about how that helps you understand Matthew. When Matthew came in for lunch, he was very hungry. I'll have 2 peanut butter and banana sandwiches with plenty of honey inside them, he told his mother. I'm making my hole into a trap, and tonight I am going to catch the midnight turkeys. The midnight turkeys, said his mother. What are they? They're the turkeys that come out just at midnight, said Matthew. Midnight turkeys are silly, you know. Very, very silly. They are so silly they will fall right into my trap for sure. Matthew washed his hands and sat down at the table. After lunch, he had to wash them again because of the sandwiches. I wonder if you can make any text-to-self connections in this part. If you've ever had any ideas that you're really excited about and maybe they're a little bit made up and your parents or your family members or your friends don't completely understand them, but they make you very happy and excited. When Matthew went outside, he decided it might be a good idea to leave some of his things in the trap so the midnight turkeys would have something to do when they fell in. He brought out his comic books and a deck of cards, a couple of cars and his telephone, a few of his better bottle tops, and many other things that midnight turkeys are fond of. Then he made some signs with arrows on them so the midnight turkeys would know which way to go. A few of the signs had words on them too, just in case the midnight turkeys could read a little. When everything was ready, Matthew called his mother and showed her his midnight turkey trap. "Very nice," she said, "but what makes you think they will come tonight?" "Oh, they'll come all right," said Matthew. "Midnight turkeys always come if you put out a trap for them." "I see," said his mother. "And what are you planning to do with the midnight turkeys once you catch them?" "I'll have them for breakfast," Matthew explained. "Midnight turkeys make a very good meal, you know." Then Matthew went inside to have his dinner. He took a bath and got into bed. Soon he was fast asleep. But later that night, just after midnight, Matthew woke up again. He ran to his window and looked out to see if the midnight turkeys were coming. They were. They were walking right down. Just want to show you that picture for a second. They were walking right down the middle of the street, and they certainly were silly, all right. They were tickling each other and giggling together, and one of the sillier ones was even tickling himself, which is quite hard to do. Then the midnight turkeys took off their shoes and threw them away. They pulled off their socks and tied them in knots. They laughed and giggled and wiggled their bums. They pushed out their bellies and bumped each other whenever they could, and when they did, they said, "Excuse me," and fell down. Then all the midnight turkeys stood under a streetlight together and sang a sentimental song about underwear. After a while, the midnight turkeys noticed the signs that Matthew had made, and they got quite excited. The ones that could read them read what they said, and the ones that couldn't ate them instead, just in case they tasted like something. In no time at all, the midnight turkeys were following the arrows, and they found Matthew's trap, no problem. They all lined up and waited their turn to fall into the hole, and it wasn't very long before every single one of them was caught. Matthew went outside to see if his trap was working the way it was supposed to. It was. The midnight turkeys had settled right in, and they were having a wonderful time. "Hey, you turkeys," yelled Matthew. "How do you like it?" "We love it," they answered. "This is the best trap we've been caught in for years. Come on, come in. There's plenty of room." So Matthew jumped down into the hole, and all the midnight turkeys tickled him for a while, just to make him feel at home. Matthew laughed so much it made him feel hungry. The midnight turkeys were hungry too, so they phoned out for pizza. The delivery man came by with their order right away. 10 super large jumbos with anything on them, he called as he dropped the pizzas down into the hole. "Let's play cards while we eat," said Matthew. "Let's play crazy eights," yelled a midnight turkey. "Crazy eights with crazy nines," shouted another. "Crazy tens and aces too," cried a third. "Why don't we just have a crazy everything?" said Matthew. So all that night they ate pizza and played cards, and when they got tired of that, they ate the cards and played with the pizza. Then they sang some turkey songs together until the night was almost over and the sun was coming up. "Come on inside," said Matthew. "It's time to eat again." Everyone agreed, so Matthew brought the midnight turkeys into the kitchen and had them for breakfast. The midnight turkeys made the meal. We're going to make cereal sandwiches, they said. The midnight turkeys got out the bread and they spread a lot of jam around. The jam is to keep the cereal from falling out, they said, and they were absolutely right because when they poured on the cereal, some of it stuck. I like bananas on my cereal sometimes, said Matthew. No problem, said the midnight turkeys, and they rolled some bananas out flat with the rolling pin and stuck them into the sandwich. Then the midnight turkeys poured some orange juice into a bowl and they added some tomato juice too until the color was right. Next, they put in some ginger ale, some grape juice, some cola, and then, just to make sure it was sweet enough, they dumped in a tin of chocolate syrup and stirred it up. The juice of many flavors is good for you, they explained. It is full of vitamins and lots of other stuff. After a while, the midnight turkeys had to go, so Matthew said goodnight. Then he curled up in his chair. Soon he was fast asleep. Later that morning, around 8, Matthew's mother woke up. It was very quiet, and no one was bouncing on her bed. Matthew, she said. Matthew, where are you? Matthew didn't answer, so his mother had to get out of bed and go looking for him. When she finally found him asleep in the kitchen, she was very surprised to see that breakfast was ready. Good heavens, she cried. What happened? Matthew woke up. He looked at his mother and smiled. The midnight turkeys got caught in my trap just like I thought they would, he told her. I jumped in too, and we had lots of fun, so afterwards I had them for breakfast. The midnight turkeys made a very good meal. I saved you some. Matthew's mother took a long look around. She saw there were lots of leftovers, and she noticed a number of left-unders too. Then she sighed and sat down. I don't need any breakfast right now, she said. What I need is a cup of coffee. So I can make one last text-to-self connection at the end when the mom, I can infer that she's looking a little overwhelmed and exhausted here and a little worried about all the cleanup she has to do. And then she sighs and says, I don't need any breakfast. What I need is a cup of coffee. I can connect to that because sometimes my kids will work on projects and they make a big giant mess and they're super duper proud of themselves, but I have to do a whole bunch of cleanup afterwards. And I always feel a little bit like, oh my gosh, I am feeling very overwhelmed by everything I have to pick up. So I can connect to how she's feeling. It helps me understand how she's feeling in that book. So that's Matthew and the Midnight Turkeys. I hope you loved it. I also hope that you will make a text-to-self connection. You'll think of something that Matthew did or the mom did that reminds you of something from your own life and talk about how that helps you understand the story and post it into the discussion below. And I can't wait to see what you write. Okay, I hope you love the story. I'll see you later. Bye.